Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how I typically weather my Gundams. Honestly, I've only ever weathered one Gundam like this, but I did it on my, I think it's Red Astray frame Gundam. So it looks something like this when it's done weathering. Yeah, and I'm gonna be demonstrating it on my Freedom Strike Gundam, but not on the entire thing because that's going to take too long. I'm just going to be demonstrating it on the shield of my Freedom Strike Gundam for today. And if it looks like I've already tried weathering it, it's because I have already tried weathering it, and I washed it mostly all off because of how terribly it turned out. So yes, I'm redoing it because the first time really sucked. Okay, so the two main paints that I use are silver and black. I really just scavenged my garage for any freaking paint I could find, and I found them, so that's what I'm using. The one material that I mainly use to do my weathering is basically this sponge thing, which I got off my sanding foam thing. I just cut off a little strip of it. You see these little holes in the sponges? That makes the patterns somewhat randomized when I go to weather my things. And sometimes I use a brush, not really often, but sometimes I'll do that. And I think other people use a brush often as well. I just prefer using a sponge because I feel like it's easier. Okay, so first off, I'm gonna start off by demonstrating how and where I put the silver paint. So I first want to point out where I plan to put the silver paint. I usually put the silver paint in areas of the plastic that aren't white, and especially darker plastic colors. So on this dark red over here, on this dark blue over here, red, but not on the white places. Personally, I just feel like it looks better, stands out more on the darker colored plastic or painted on places than it does on the white. I think that black stands out better on the white. Take the tip of the sponge, dip it into the paint, and try to get the excess off. We don't want to put a huge blob of it at once, and then to weather it, I'll just dab very lightly in randomized spots on the darker colored areas. Depending on how weathered you want your gunpla to look, depending on how much war, how much depression you want it to look like it's gone through, you can determine how much weathering or paint you want to put on your gunpla. So what I like to do is I look for the edges, all the places that it would look like if the piece of plastic model were to actually go out into war. Those are the places that would get abrased the most easily. So it doesn't look like I did a lot, but actually if you do less, it actually looks more realistic. Imagine I just covered this whole thing with silver. There's no point in weathering anymore, right? I might as well just spray paint the whole thing in silver. So my point is, being sparing with how much weathering you do can actually go a long way. Oh, wow. Don't do that. If you make any mistakes like that, just take your finger, wipe it off, problem's all gone. Okay, let's not do that again. Okay, that's a good amount. Of course, depending on how weathered you want it to look, you can put differing amounts. I just like to put an extra amount of paint on the raised edges. That's all I'm going to do for the silver color. Now I'm going to move on to black. So with the black paint, you pretty much want to follow the same exact rules that I set up for the silver paint. Again, cover the edges mostly. Okay, so the paint's not really coming off well, so I'm gonna dab some more black paint onto it. Oh, that's too much. Okay. If this turns out badly, it's because I am trying to look at the camera and my Gunpla at the same time. Okay, that was okay. That turned out somewhat not how I wanted it to turn out, but we'll keep going. Oh, shoot. And actually, for the sake of the video, even though I don't really use my brushes to do a lot of my weathering, I'm going to demonstrate how I would use my brush if I were to use it to do my weathering. So I believe what people do with their brushes is they sort of get the edge of the brush. Sorry, it's not focusing. So they get the edge of their brush and they tap it to the edges of the Gunpla, like so. Well, no, that didn't work. If you're going to be wiping your mistakes with your finger, please do not suck on it later. Okay, and that's it. That's how I like to weather my Gunpla. And just some more tips or just things that I like to do. I just put on some silver paint to represent, contact with the ground. One more thing though is if you're using paint that doesn't really stick on your Gunpla very well, I highly recommend you use some sort of top coat, either gloss or matte or whatever you got, and just coat it up so that the paint actually stays on for a long time, because you did all that work. You don't want it to go to waste and get smudged. You don't want your dog to lick it up and die or something like that. So yeah, that's my final tip of the day. Thank you for watching, and maybe I'll get better at talking someday. And you know, sometimes I'll just do a little, like just a little. Just kidding, don't do that. Yeah, that makes it look not great. Actually, you know what? This could be an effect, like, this could be the 100-year-old dried up blood effect on your shield. So, who knows, maybe I just created some new weathering technique.